All right, we are live. Welcome back, everybody, to episode number 5 of the Pavement Group podcast. Thanks for joining us once again. I'm here with my partners, Brian and Mike, the greatest wingmen in the business. How are you guys? Good morning.
Fantastic, man. Good to be here with you, brother.
Great. Thanks, Todd.
My pleasure, Mike. Thanks for joining me. Today, we're going to be talking about technology-driven project management and how facilities and property managers can really take advantage of all the great things that are going on out in the industry. So we're glad you're here. Thanks for joining us. Here we go with episode 5. All right. So again, thank you for joining us. We've been talking a lot about technology and where it plays a part in our industry, right? We're a parking lot maintenance company. Over the last 10 years, we've seen so many massive changes in what we're able to do, what we've been able to develop. Guys like Mike that are really innovators in the industry and have brought a whole new set of technology. 10 years ago, you'd get a Google Earth photo, and I'm speaking from a contractor standpoint, but you get a Google Earth photo, you'd mark it up, and property and facility managers get an idea of what you were doing on that particular project. It was great for scheduling and phasing and that sort of thing. But it really didn't give anybody an idea of, data that they could use to either plan or give them some historical references about their properties. Well, cut to today where so much of this has changed and there's so much great stuff out there. And obviously we're talking about it because we think we have some of the best technology in the industry. And that's what we really wanted to dive into today. So how you can use technology to help manage your projects and to help understand your portfolios better. And Brian, I'm going to start with you here. I get it like we kind of do. We'll do some round robin questions here and dive in and hopefully share some nuggets with everybody out there about what we're doing and what they can really expect. We found the customer journey, right? From the time when you're answering the phone and how you answer the phone and how quick you get back to people and how quick we can turn proposals together. That stuff all matters, right? We can leverage technology to help improve that experience, but extrapolate that out all the way to the closeout process where a lot of times things lag or they just drag on or they don't get completed, and how technology can really shorten up all those windows and really make the process and the experience for the customer that much better.
Yeah, I think it's a couple things, man, on those topics is, first and foremost, leveraging technology at every twist and turn makes things easier all the way around, right? We don't just do it for the customer. I mean, that is the primary reason that we try to make every decision is based on the customer's expectations or the advantages to the customer. But it also, what we found is it does a tremendous amount for us internally, because it helps simplify our processes internally for our team and creates a more collaborative effort both inside of our company as well as with the customer. So, starting with, how we answer the phone, how quickly we're getting back to people, how detailed the proposals can be so that the customer can make decisions on the fly where they can, they don't have to send us back out to look at something, all the way through to what you had mentioned and what we're going to talk about today, the actual project management piece. So like once the customer actually signs that proposal, what does it look like? What does that process look like? And so there's a handful of things that customers tell us all the time are the most frequent challenges that they have in their world working with contractors, and just the general challenges that come with being a contractor and producing these types of jobs. You have weather challenges, equipment breakdowns, all the different variables that happen with jobs.
Sure.
And so how do you make things easier on the customer? And what we have done is leverage technology to be able to do that from the project management side of things. And so, we'll dig into that a little bit more here, but it's like, what our ultimate goal of leveraging technology, both on the front end and the back end, is to create a collaborative experience where the customer feels part of it, not where we're telling the customer what they need to do, but where we're creating an environment where the customer can see what we see and we can walk them through exactly what needs to happen and what's going to happen. And then they can be part of that journey with us. Not that we're pushing things through the process, but that they can see it. One of the things that I say all the time is we don't want to just check every box from the time that a contract is signed to the time that we invoice it. We want the customer to see us checking every single box so that they feel that level of comfort through the whole process.
Awesome. Okay. So transparency is something that you're able to provide, or we're able to provide through this technology.
Huge.
Okay. Mike, I'll ask you a similar question. So Mike is the person that developed this software that we use, our proprietary Pavement Group site assessment software, which, again, I think is the best that I've ever seen. I've been doing this for a long time. Tell me what you were thinking about when you get the assessment and then you're taking it to the proposal stage. What's the advantage to the customer to having that much more backup information instead of having just the sheet that says, 2,500 square yards of patching, line striping, here's your price?
Well, I think you both stole my words: transparency to our customer, and then also see what we want them to see what we see. Really, what it does is it allows the customer to, like you said, see what we see from the beginning to the end. We're able to. I've had many customers on site that say, I've got a pothole here, and we can tell them exactly where that pothole is, or we can tell them what we think needs to happen on their lot at the same time they're there, and we already have this information. So really allowing them to see what we see from our eyes and able to allow them to make decisions based on the data that is there has really helped us out in a lot. It really has helped us and our customers out, because they're able to make these decisions based on data instead of one customer's idea or one contractor's idea compared to another contractor's idea. And really it's helped in communication, like Brian said, internally and externally. I mean, if we have our process, lined out and we allow the customer to see us checking those boxes, it totally creates transparency. And it doesn't allow them to, or it doesn't allow issues to come up without people knowing about them. One misstep creates an issue that can put everybody sideways for a week. And we experience it too. We're not immune to those situations, even with the technology and the systems we've put in place. But it has allowed us to create a system that actually, from beginning to end, there is steps that need to be taken and are taken to allow us to have the good information and then be able to give that information to our clients at the same time. Okay,
awesome. So I feel like every time I ask you why you did it this way in the assessment, you just say, well, the feedback, what we heard from the customers, they wanted it this way.
Correct.
So I put it in, we kicked it around, and we fine-tuned it and got it really good. I think you guys will agree with me because we have this conversation a lot. The largest feedback, the top, say, 5 things that we hear from customers that we think technology can really solve: poor communication, the lack of details, and I wrote them down, so I'm reading my notes here. The lack of details on proposals, contractors not doing what they say they're going to do. When issues happen, they don't get handled properly. They drag on. They don't seem to ever get resolved. And then poor project planning and execution, which is sort of that holistic view of everything that we're talking about here. So, Mike, take a couple of those and talk about why you, again, put some things into our assessment tool to specifically solve those problems.
Well, if we don't have good information up front, it's hard to give something on the back end. With poor communication, if you don't discuss what the expectations of your client are, it's hard to really give them a very good overview of what their site looks like or what kind of scope that is going to need to be done. And then that goes right into the next one. If you have that information up front that you discussed and communicated with your client, then you're going to be able to put the details that you think need to have happen on their property into that proposal, and they're going to be able to see. They're going to be able to see exactly what you're recommending based on a site assessment or the communication that you had prior to even putting that proposal together. And then I had a mentor of mine way back in the day that told me it's not the problem that you have created, it's how you create the solution to that problem. And it's something that I've brought through with my whole career, that sometimes you're going to have problems. You're going to have problems all the time in this industry is really what it comes down to. It's how you are able to take care of your client and remedy that situation. And, like I said, it happens to everybody. We're not immune to it. So, if you're a problem solver, you better be a good problem solver in this industry. So, and then once again, start communication works all the way down to the execution and planning, and that's one of the steps that we have really taken a lot of effort to try to pull the problems out of and use technology in the execution and the planning portion of it. And obviously, a couple bullet points down, we'll get into how we do that and what we use. So,
sure, okay, all right, awesome. That's great feedback, Brian. You add anything there?
I would just say that the thing to drive home is that, if you're a contractor out there listening, you want to approach from those problems that you hear consistently from your customers. You want to invest into the things in your business that will solve those problems. And as a customer, as a person that's looking to hire contractors, you want to ask the questions around those ideas, those challenges that are consistently known in the construction space. And ask, just what processes and or technology and the things that we're going to talk about today, how people have things in place to solve those most frequently heard problems in the industry. One of the things that I always say is, like, when I started in this business, I didn't have enough knowledge to talk to people about what everybody else was talking to them about. So I had to actually ask them what their problems were. And over hundreds of meetings, I literally heard the same 3 to 5 problems from almost every customer, and it had nothing to do with, the type of equipment used or the types of trucks you have or the it was all of these little things that caused big problems for the people who you're trying to serve as a contractor. And, that is, why I'm excited to talk about this today is, like, we have invested into those things, and we've built every process inside of our company, to Mike's point, to try and reduce those things as much as possible. We work in a business where weather's an issue, equipment issues, small pieces of communication can cause a chain reaction of things that make things go a little bit wrong. And, it's about trying to reduce those by putting a process in place and leveraging technology and bringing the customer in to join that process with you, so that the visibility is on both sides.
Yeah, no, right on. So we've been talking a lot about the upfront piece, and I'm a sales guy, so I'm thinking about the assessment tool and working with customers to get proposals done and that sort of thing. But let's shift gears a little bit here and really talk about the project management and the other technologies we leverage. If you follow Brian's other podcast, The Morning Perspective, today he was talking about kind of facing problems head on in business, and specifically, you're going to have bumps. We work in construction. Mother Nature is a terrible business partner. Things go wrong. They just do, right? Having a process, having a culture that you're going to fix it within your company is the most important thing. And that's a lot about what you were talking about, and making sure you guys are getting together and fixing it and servicing the customers as quick as you can. But having that process in place, there's a football coach. I don't remember what his name. Oh, it's Bill Belichick. That's who it is. Most successful football coach of all time, who talks all about do your job, right? And when you really extrapolate that, you look deep into it, all he's saying is, we design a perfect play. And if the play goes perfectly every time, we're going to score a touchdown or we're going to stop the offense, period. If you're in your position, you do your job 100% properly, right? And that's their process. Does it happen that way? No, it doesn't. Somebody screws it up. You got 11 people and all these other factors that come into play, right? But when it does, it's a beautiful thing. So let's talk a little, Brian, about how we leverage technology to back up the processes that we already have in place in the company, so that we can deliver. I don't know how many championships the Patriots have at this point right now. I've lost track, but so that we can deliver sort of a championship level, is that too hokey, type performance for our clients. Really, they'll talk about the project management technologies we have out there that take it from the sold job standpoint all the way through the billing.
We'll focus on the technology that the Patriots use to win those championships on a different podcast.
I opened myself up to that. I knew I did.
So, I think that first and foremost, to give you guys a high level explanation to the listeners is, we leverage a project management portal that allows the customer to be part of every project from start to finish, not just during the project when we're on site, but from the time that a contract gets signed, the customer gets an invite to be, to collaborate with our team, with everybody that's working on their project. And we have built out templates for those different types of jobs. If it's a large seal coating job, we've got a template for that. If there's a large mill and pave job, we've got a template for that. And it has the checklist of everything that we potentially could face planning and executing those projects from, does it require a permit? How many phases is this job going to be? What are the quantities? How many days is it going to take? What are the number of days that the customer needs it to be done in? Every last detail is entered into that portal. And the reason that we invite the customer in there is we want to make sure that, again, number one, that everything that we're planning is on the right page as the customer, and that as we're planning, nothing shifts around, right? Because we know that when we meet with a customer and we plan a job, that sometimes something happens, an event happens in the customer's business or something changes where something in that planning process needs to change. And sometimes, again, it's, just something happens and we don't get that information until the last minute. So anything we can do to evolve that process and get it more accurate as we're planning it, we want to do. The second thing that portal does is creates complete transparency in the process of how we're planning it. And again, I said it before, I'll say it again. It's like, we don't want to just check every box. We want them to see us checking every box. Like, if we're telling the customer that we've applied for a permit, they're going to see the information for that permit in the system, all the way through to, where are we staging the equipment on this customer's site? Is that okay for them? If it is a retail place, we invite the store manager, if the facilities manager is okay with that, so that the store manager can bring up things. There have been times where we figure out, hey, man, there's going to be, a delivery truck coming through this area, and this is where they turn around in the parking lot, and we're planning on staging the equipment there, right? Something that we may not think of that the customer would bring up to us. And it just helps really fine tune that so that when we arrive on site, two things. Number one, we know exactly what we're going to do. And number two, the customer feels like they already know us, even if we're fairly new to them or we're new to the store manager. They feel like they know our team, they know us, and they know the plan of what they're getting themselves into. And I think, that is really when we hear the complaint about project management, I think that it is rooted in not knowing what's coming, right? And not knowing what's shifting around during that project. So that project portal is the hub for where everything happens. So the communication to the customer, what is changing? If we get rained out for a day, does that affect the schedule? The schedule is in there. And again, it just creates what I believe is the best customer experience in the industry as far as just making them part of what we do, and there's nothing to hide, all the way down to the closeout package, the sign-off sheet that we do when we complete a project, the project walkthrough. They're getting up-to-date photos as the project is starting to be executed all the way through to completion. So they get morning, noon, and night photos of everything that's going on. It's an incredible system that has allowed us to really make the customer part of the project, not somebody that's just kind of along for the ride.
Okay, that's great. That is a great summary of it. So what I heard you say was expectations, collaboration, and then transparency all the way along. Like those are three pretty big words that, again, if you can deliver. And what do you see, Mike, in the technology that allows you to deliver that to the customers?
Well, in my position these days, I don't get to get out as much as I used to. So I sit here in my desk a lot, and I personally get to see how these jobs are running also. I get the customer side view of it, where I wake up in the morning and truthfully, sometimes I don't know if we had a crew there or not. And then I'm able to see on my end also that the crew is there. So I'm seeing the same thing that the customer's seeing. And, I'm not managing that job, but I also get a 30,000 foot overview of what our client or what our technicians are doing that day on different properties. So I get to see it firsthand. Sure. How all that stuff works too. And I think the technology that we use is great. Like you said, transparency, it's
collaborative and execution.
Nobody else does it.
I mean, expectations.
I'll be honest, nobody else has this type of transparency. We don't want to hide anything from our customers. We want them to see yields. We want them to see where we messed up. We want them to see all the stuff out there. So when it comes time to do that walkthrough or the punch out items, we all know what's still left over. If there's something left over, we all know. The customer all knows, and it's all then scheduled based on what everybody knows. So I've never seen anything like it. I'll be honest. I've come up in the industry myself, and I've never seen anything that we've put together. This is incredible for us, for our customers. inside people, outside people, everybody gets to see what's going on in that job at the same exact time. We upload pictures daily, sometimes hourly, during the milling process or during a paving process. So if a client wants to see what our technicians are doing at that exact time, they can probably go see it without even walking outside.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's two ways to look at that. A contractor could be a little intimidated by putting everything out there, especially if you're not quite ready to put everything out there, especially if you know you don't have everything in order. But you can also look at it that it's going to drive a culture of accountability and of greatness in your company, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to, everybody knows it's visible. Everything that we do every day, we're not going to be perfect, but we know we're trying. We know we're trying to live up to a standard. We're trying to match the brand promise that we made out there to our clients. And they're going to see whether we do it or we don't. And I don't know. I've seen it drive massive amounts of accountability, but much more importantly, a great culture within the Pavement Group. So Mike, I'll throw this one to you. Give a summary if a facility or project manager is listening to this podcast. What are they looking for? What does good project management look like? What are a few key indicators for them to know whether they're getting it or they aren't getting it?
Well, first of all, is if a project manager is being called every day by their constituents, if you want to call it that, or the people in the office building, that something, let's say there's a mill that's in the way, or there's a skid steer that was parked over here, and the CEO of the company that's leasing this building can't park in his parking spot, and he knew nothing about that. I mean, that's obviously a problem. So we want to make sure that not only the the property manager has all this information, but also the clients or the renters of these locations, or so if they're not receiving the amount of detail that we try to give, obviously I believe they're not getting good project management, right. Because we've built our system to create this whole process from start to finish, so there's no lack of communication. And that was our number one goal. Was communication was the first thing and it's the first thing on our list too. If you look at this list, communication between everybody was our number one goal. And then throughout the process, our process has been changing for the better. We don't like to have, anytime somebody gives us criticism, we are probably the most critical on ourselves, because we want to find the way to make sure that doesn't happen again. And we recreate our process over and over and over again to just make this better and better for us, let alone our clients. Yeah, sure. And if something breaks in the chain internally, it's great having all that sort of stuff too, because it's a push of a button to get the info, and we can figure out really quickly when you're doing that autopsy what went wrong. Oh, here it is clearly. Okay, so how do we improve upon this? How do we retrain? How do we rework the technology, or whatever piece of it is? If you sat in one of our meetings, that is our number one goal: is how do we retrain ourselves to be the best? Yeah. Right on. Awesome. Well, great feedback, man. Brian, what would you add to that? The perfect project management. What does it look like? What should a project or a property or facility manager be looking for?
Yeah, I think Mike covered it. I would summarize it. I'll start with a quick summary. Is that you show up to the location that you are managing as a property facility manager, and the project's done, and you haven't received any phone calls or complaints or anything like that. That's number one, right? We talk about trying to be invisible on a site, right? Like we want to come in, replace your parking lot, and have the least amount of impact possible, where the customers are all happy. They're communicating with our project manager. He or she is upbeat and creating a good experience. Even though we're creating a little bit of inconvenience in the parking lot, we can manage that to be the best experience possible. And I think, to Mike's point, they should see this. They should be able to see this project happening without leaving the comfort of their desk. And the reality is that is what the requirement is for a lot of our customers. They might be in Illinois, and we might be doing their lot in Virginia. And so we need to create that experience. And to Mike's point, it's a test for us, because we've got people all over the country, and we are seeing what the customer sees. So if we are not able to see the right information, then we adjust our process to be able to deliver that. But, the project management does way more than just create a great experience. It also protects the customer, and it protects us. We've had instances where, there have been issues on a site where somebody went and said, there was tack sprayed on a vehicle. Okay, no problem. We'll take care of that. We apologize for that happening. Tell us where you were parked with your vehicle. And they weren't even in the section that we were paving that day.
Right,
so it was somebody that had, likely gotten tack on their vehicle somewhere else, saw somebody paving a parking lot. We had another one where a customer of a retail store literally ran into one of our dump trucks. We were able to capture images of this happening, document that, and get everybody on the same page as to what happened. So, it is a really valuable tool all the way around to create a level of transparency that I believe everybody has always wanted. But to Mike's point, it has really never been there. And, I would encourage, if there's property and facility managers out there that are listening, challenge yourself, your team internally, and the contractors that you work with to deliver that level, because it makes life easier for everybody involved. If there is an issue, you're going to see that issue and you're going to be able to communicate through this portal. Everything's going to be documented. Everybody's on the same page, and it creates a pleasant experience all the way around. Again, like we said earlier, for us and for the customer, right? It's easier on us, but it's also an enormous benefit for the customer.
Sure. Awesome. Okay. That's great. Well, again, another great conversation, a great talk surrounding technology and how we can leverage it. And hopefully we're providing some value here. Brian, do we have any questions that came in through social? I'm not sure if you get that window open or not.
No questions. Couple comments, but no questions. People saying they enjoyed it and look forward to watching it again over. I'm sure there's some guys out in the field that are looking to watch this, but they probably got a bunch of noisy equipment around them, so they're having a hard time.
Fair enough, as they should. Come 5:30, you can find this too. At the end of the day, do you guys get any parting shots? Anything that we didn't talk about that you want to make sure you mention here? I'll start with you, Mike.
Well, I just want to kind of reiterate. Brian says that we try to be invisible, but yet we are the most visible organization that I can think of. I mean, we want to be invisible on site, but we want you to see everything that we're doing. So that's really. I don't know how to put it in a cliche or anything like that, but that's really what
we'll come up with something.
Right.
The most visible, invisible company you'll ever meet. Right on. Now that makes perfect sense, though. I think you nailed it. Awesome. Thank you, Mike. How about you, Brian?
Man, just I enjoy doing these, man. I hope the information was valuable, and I hope that it helps people think a little bit different, from this standpoint of project management. I often say inside of our company, man, business, especially the construction business, is as difficult or as easy as you want to make it. Right. And if you make the right choices, you make the customer part of the journey, it becomes a lot more enjoyable, a lot more fun, and a lot more predictable business. We work in a really unpredictable business in a lot of ways with equipment and weather. We've talked about those topics repeatedly today, but you can make it more predictable by creating that visibility, creating the collaboration that every customer is looking for, and just has a hard time finding a lot in our industry. And so I would challenge, those contractors who are listening to the podcast to, create that. Some of those guys are going to be subcontractors for us, people that work with us, help make the experience collaborative for us, because that's what we're looking for too, right? In contractors that do work for us. Everything that we talked about today is what we would want as our ideal contractor to be working with us and working with our customers as well.
Right on. Yeah, perfect. Well said. Awesome. Well, again, thank you to everybody for joining us for episode 5. We're going to be pumping one of these out at least once a week. We're going to be trying to go live as often as we can. It's a lot of fun. We've gotten a tremendous amount of feedback that's helped us create these new topics. So please keep that coming as well. Property facilities managers, we get a lot of friends out there in the industry. Keep throwing us stuff, and we will definitely try to put together the best program we can and help you solve some problems, answer some questions, that sort of thing. I'll wrap this one up by saying setting expectations. This is what I got. Setting expectations, collaborating all the way through, and having transparency. And if you've got the technology and the team to do that, you're going to win every time. You're going to win every time. So grateful for everybody who tuned in. Pavement Group Podcast, episode 6 will be coming at you soon. Look out for it. Brian, Mike, as always, you guys are awesome, and we'll see y'all real soon. Thank you.
See you guys.